Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude and obeisances at the lotus feet of Abhay Charana Aravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because of whose blessings and endeavor, just a few weeks back, we celebrated the very auspicious event of Srila Prabhupada coming here to America. So we offer our obeisances collectively to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada for bestowing us with this very rare opportunity of performing Krishna consciousness in this rarely attained human form of life. Secondly, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to my most worshipable spiritual master, Sri Srimad Srila Radha Govinda Das Goswami Maharaj, and to all the wonderful spiritual masters in our Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya of ISKCON, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, who are traveling around the world in the ripe old age, spreading the teachings and the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And lastly, I want to offer my obeisances to all the devotees present here. Please pray for me. Please bless me so that I can speak some favorable words in the glorification of today's topic. Please accept my very humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We see that today is a very auspicious day, the day of Ekadashi. If devotees are joining from India, then probably Ekadashi was yesterday. And I assume Ekadashi is today even in the East Coast. I'm not entirely sure, but at least here in the West Coast, today is the day of Ekadashi. And we see that it is the day, Ekadashi, Dasha means 10, and Eka, 1 plus 10 is 11. So Ekadashi is historically that day where the 11 senses should be used only for Hari Bhajan. 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and 1 mind. 5 Jnanendriya, 5 Karma Indriya, and 1 is the mind. 11 senses should be used on the 11th day to please the Supreme Lord. So all 11 senses should be used. So this is the perfect day to hear. In fact, every day is very good and very auspicious to hear about Krishna, but especially on this day of Ekadashi. We generally see if it's a weekend, it's very easy to hear classes, but on a working day, it becomes very difficult. If it's in the middle of the week with our academic job deadlines and academic deadlines and things like that, to hear the pastimes of the Supreme Lord throughout the day on the day of Ekadashi becomes a little difficult. But thankfully, my very heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of ISKCON of Bergen County, New Jersey, that they have set the platform where all of us can come together and collectively hear about the Supreme Lord. Ekadashi is that day where Sri Krishna thinks to himself that people of Kali are so fallen that how will they come back to me? They are so fallen, how will they come back to me? So Krishna personally becomes Ekadashi Tithi. Tithi is the time frame. And as we know, Krishna says, Kalosmi, I am time. So this Ekadashi Tithi that is there, it is Krishna himself, adventing only for our benefit, so that by following this Ekadashi Tithi, one becomes the recipient of the Supreme Lord's mercy and marches his way back home, back to Godhead in some lifetime. That is why our Acharyas, they also say in this famous song, Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu, there it is very beautifully explained in the second verse that how Ekadashi is Madhava Tithi Bhakti Janani. Madhava is Sri Krishna. Ma means Lakshmi and Dhava means husband. He who is the husband of Lakshmi is Madhava. And the highest form of Lakshmi is Srimati Radharani. So Radha Madhava, the husband of Ma, that is Lakshmi, is the Supreme Lord. So Madhava Tithi, this day is Madhava Tithi. But more importantly, it is Bhakti Janani. Janani means mother. It provides devotion like no other day. Any activity that is done on this day, devotional activity, gets multiplied 1,000 times. Just like we say that when we go to Vrindavan Dham, whatever good that we do, any round that we chant gets multiplied 1,000 times. Any hearing of katha that we do gets multiplied 1,000 times. Vaishnava seva gets multiplied 1,000 times. But now, living in America, it's not feasible to go to Vrindavan every single day, not even every month, not even once in 3 months, not even probably once in 6 months. The amount of Vrindavan Yatra that we do is maybe once a year, once in 2 years, not very often. So Krishna has been so kind and so merciful that he adventures this day of Ekadashi, where just by performing this Ekadashi, simply by hearing and chanting on this day, to the best of our ability, the medicine that works for one person may not necessarily work for the other person. So someone on this day may chant 48 rounds, for example, but it may not necessarily work for someone else. So whatever bhakti we do to the best of our ability, it gets multiplied on this day. Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani. So on this day of Ekadashi, we have all assembled together to hear about a very interesting book that Srila Prabhupada has gifted us. When Srila Prabhupada was there at the Radha Damodar Mandir, before coming to America, in the early 1960s, Prabhupada was once translating. And a Brajavasi friend of Srila Prabhupada, he came to meet Prabhupada. And during those days, Prabhupada was not addressed as Prabhupada, but he was addressed as Swamiji, Bhaktivedanta Swami. So he was addressed as Swamiji. So one Brajavasi friend came to meet Prabhupada and he said, Swamiji. He was surprised because Prabhupada was translating, but Prabhupada was using a Parker pen. Now you see, even till this date, Parker pen is very expensive. If you go out, seldom do people use Parker pen. Everyone uses a ballpoint pen or a gel pen. But in our daily activities, we don't use a Parker pen unless and until someone is very affluent. Most times we don't use a Parker pen. But in the early 1960s, Prabhupada was translating Bhagavatam in Vrindavan, being a sannyasi and using a Parker pen. Now this is very, very interesting. Sannyasi in Vrindavan translating Bhagavatam with a Parker pen. So this Brajavasi friend, he went and said, Swamiji, Parker pen? He used a satire, sarcastically. You see, sometimes friends, when they talk, that discussion may not always be straightforward. There may be some sarcasm. And it's a different, if the relationship is that of friendship, then the sarcasm works. Even Krishna likes indirect speech very much. Krishna says, Paroksha Vadam Mama Priyam. Even Krishna likes indirect speech. जो मजा सीधे बोलने में है, उससे अधिक मजा यदि टेढ़े बोलने में है, उसमें हम देखते हैं. So indirect speech, there is a very different flavor that comes. So this Brajavasi, he went and said, Swamiji, Parker pen? And when Prabhupada heard this, Prabhupada nodded, and Prabhupada in Hindi, he said, for those who understand Hindi will relate. Prabhupada said, हाँ, इसी भागवत को पढ़कर सारे जीव जंतु भव सागर पार कर देंगे. Prabhupada simply played with the words. One meaning is Parker, but another meaning is Parker, to cross the ocean. To cross the ocean. So Prabhupada said, हाँ, इसी भागवत को पढ़कर सारे जीव जंतु भव सागर भी पार कर देंगे. Prabhupada was very witty, very scholarly and very witty. And this is Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu explains, of the 26 qualities of a devotee, one quality is to be poetic. Kavi, he uses the word kavi, to be poetic. And not just once, Prabhupada so many times demonstrated this point of being very poetic spontaneously. But while he was there in Radha Damodar, one of the very first books that he started translating after the Back to Godhead magazines was a book called as the Mukunda Mala Stotra. Because this Mukunda Mala Stotra is filled with so many beautiful verses. that literally open up our mind. You see in all other scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is always a link between the first verse and the second verse. Correct? Bhagavad Gita, the first verse, second verse, third verse, there is a link that goes on. Bhagavatam, there is a link. Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a link. Mukunda Mala Stotra, there is no link. You pick the first verse, you pick the second verse, you pick the last verse. There is no connection. It's a free-flowing expression of the author. Heartfelt effusion. Based on the realization that is coming to his mind, he is just writing it down. No connection. If you just pick any verse and random, we can start from there. There is no connection, no flow between the verses. But every verse in itself is like a seed which explodes in time. It's almost like a seed. You see, a seed has the whole tree in it. The seed is only so small, but it has the whole tree in it. But as time progresses, the whole tree is manifested. Likewise, these verses of Mukunda Mala Stotra are like a seed. When they're contemplated, it opens up a new reality in our lives. But very interestingly, dear devotees, this Mukunda Mala Stotra that Prabhupada started translating, Prabhupada finished the first 6 verses of the Mukunda Mala Stotra. And then Srila Prabhupada decided to stop or pause his translation of the Mukunda Mala Stotra. And Prabhupada directed all his energies for translating Srimad Bhagavatam. Because that was the need of the hour. Because no one in the history of the Sampradaya had ever translated Srimad Bhagavatam into English. No one. So Prabhupada understood that that was the need of the hour, and Prabhupada put a pause, not a full stop, but a pause. He wanted to again come back at a later date to finish the verses of Mukunda Mala Stotra. But now the attention was on Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada finishes the first 2 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, goes to America, starts a complete revolution, and then starts writing the Upadeshamrit, the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Krishna book, Science of Self-Realization, and one book after another. It just starts flowing. But interestingly, age and time was also catching up with Srila Prabhupada. And after Prabhupada translated on the 6 verses of Mukunda Mala Stotra, he could never again come back to finish it. So the Mukunda Mala Stotra that we have, the first 6 verses are commented by Prabhupada. And the remaining 46 verses that are there, all in all, there are 52 verses. The first 6 are commented by Prabhupada at the Radha Damodar Mandir. And the remaining 46 were translated and commented by Satswarup Maharaj, one of the leading disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So only the first 6 verses were commented by Prabhupada, but this is such an explosion of nectar that it was always very dear to the heart of Prabhupada. When Prabhupada would have any small amount of time, when he would walk in the hallway between classes while chanting, he would always chant these verses of Mukunda Mala Stotra. And one such verse from this magnum opus of the Mukunda Mala Stotra is this 3rd verse, for which Prabhupada has commented. It's a very interesting verse, very sweet, very beautiful, and very nectarian. So in our limited ability, we will try to see something from this verse. This follows the normal meter that we chant even for Srimad Bhagavatam. Very easy to repeat. Mukunda Murdhna Pranipatya Yache Bhavantamekantamyantamartham Avesmritestva Charanarvinde Bhave Bhave Mestu Bhavat Prasadat. I'll chant it one more time. Mukunda Murdhna Pranipatya Yache Bhavantamekantamyantamartham Avesmritestva Charanarvinde Bhave bhave mestu bhavat prasadat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanar Vinda, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: O Lord Mukunda, I bow down my head to your Lordship and respectfully ask you to fulfill this one desire of mine, that in each of my future births, I will, by your Lordship's mercy, always remember and never forget your lotus feet. O Lord Mukunda, I bow down my head to your Lordship and respectfully ask you to fulfill this one desire of mine, that in each of my future births, I will, by your Lordship's mercy, always remember and never forget your lotus feet. It is a very long purport, almost more than 10 paragraphs. So in the interest of time, I will just read the first paragraph and then we can get into our discussion. Purport: the world in which we live is a miserable place. It is, so to speak, a prison house for the spirit soul. Just as a prisoner cannot move or enjoy life fully, so the living entities who have been conditioned by the laws of material nature cannot experience their actual, ever joyful nature. They cannot have any freedom because they must suffer four principal miseries: birth, old age, death, and disease. The laws of material nature impose this punishment upon the living entity who have forgotten the Lord and who are busy making plans for lasting happiness in this desert of distress. The Shastra very beautifully explains. One time there was a devotee, and this devotee was very religious, very interested in hearing Harikatha. And when he would hear Harikatha, he would not fall asleep. You see, many times when we hear, it starts with Shravanam, and 10 minutes into the class, it becomes Snoranam. We start snoring. Shravanam transitions to Snoranam. That is our attention span. But this devotee who was there was very serious and interested in hearing Harikatha. A very humble request if we can mute our mics. So we find this devotee was very much interested in hearing Harikatha, and every day he had a pattern. Every day he would hear Katha. He would invite his friends and there would be speaker, and every day he would hear. Not Zoom classes, in-person classes. You see, there is a lot of difference between Zoom and in-person. When the classes, when we have a Zoom session, out of 50, 60, 70 devotees that are there, hardly very few turn on the video. So for the speaker, it becomes extremely difficult. But when it's an in-person class, it's very easy and relatable for the speaker and also for the audience. So we find this devotee was always hearing Harikatha. And one time, his Guru Maharaj walked into that assembly. So naturally, when Sri Guru walks into that assembly, you get up, you offer obeisances, you offer Dandavat Pranam out of respect, out of etiquette. So this devotee also got up and he gave full Sashtang Dandavat Pranam to his Guru Maharaj, and his Guru Maharaj blessed him. He washed the feet of his Guru Maharaj. He took the dust of the lotus feet of his Guru Maharaj. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita explains there are three things that are very powerful. If someone wants to make advancement on this path of Krishna Bhakti, Chaitanya Charitamrita says there are three things that we can do. Bhakta Pada Dhuli Yara Bhakta Pada Jal Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha Tini Mahabal. Tini Mahabal. These three things are very powerful. What are these three things? Bhakta Pada Dhuli, the lotus feet dust of a pure Vaishnava. Bhakta Pada Jal, the Charanamrit of a pure Vaishnava. And third, Bhakta Bhukta Avashesha, the remnants of a pure Vaishnava, the Prasadam remnants. Tini Mahabal. Either one or all three, if it can be done, it acts as a catalyst to make rapid advancement on the path of Krishna consciousness. So now this devotee, He not just took the lotus feet dust, he also took the Charanamrit, following proper etiquette. So now his Guru Maharaj came to that assembly and Katha was going on. And while this Katha was going on, you see, especially, may not be much in America, but in India we find while we are hearing Katha, sometimes mosquitoes and flies keep flying here and there. Very, very common sight in India, especially where there are big lights and halogens. You find these bees and flies, and they just keep flying. And it can become a distraction when you're hearing Katha. So this devotee was hearing Katha, and apparently there was a fly that was flying, and it came and sat on the forehead of this devotee. So now, in order to make sure that this fly goes away, this fly flies away, he just made sure that he brushed his forehead. And while he brushed his forehead, the fly that was there, sure enough, it flew away. But what also happened was the dust particles that had accumulated on his forehead, they all fell down to the ground. The dust particles that had accumulated on his forehead after he paid obeisances to his Guru Maharaj, now with his hand, he wiped everything and the dust particles fell down to the ground. And as he did this, his Guru Maharaj, who was sitting there, was completely dejected. And the devotee understood. He understood that there is something wrong. Kuch to galti hua hai. My spiritual master apparently seems very sad and dejected. So he looked to his Guru Maharaj and said, my dear Gurudev, what happened? When you entered the assembly, you were smiling and you were joyful, and now you look very sad. What happened? And his Guru Maharaj explained, what you just did is so sinful. He said, why? What happened? His Guru Maharaj explained, when you offer obeisances to your spiritual master, sins of lifetimes together get burned to ashes. But how many lifetimes? The number of dust particles that are accumulated on your forehead, that many sins of that many lifetimes get burned to ashes. This is Shastric. This is why our Acharyas always say, when we go to Vrindavan, when we do Govardhan Parikrama, Vrindavan Parikrama, when we offer obeisances, the general Kali Yuga mindset is the moment obeisances are done, dust particles are there, we start wiping. For us, the kurta is more important than Braj Raj, than Govardhan Raj. And this is Dham Aparad. This is Dham Aparad. Shastra never encourages this. So now this devotee had done this. The dust particles that were there on his forehead after he gave obeisances to his Gurudev, now he washed them away. And dear devotees, this was nothing but Guru Aparad. It was not intentional. It was just not intentional. But he got Guru Aparad. And now his Gurudev, wherever there is Guru Aparad, how can Gurudev stay in that place? So his Gurudev walked out from that assembly. The Hari Bhakti Vilas explains, Sripad Sanatan Goswami explains, there are 6 types of Vaishnava Aparad. We always say Vaishnava Aparad, Vaishnava Aparad. There are 6 types of Vaishnava Aparad. Hanti Nindanti Vaidveshti, Vaishnava Nabhinandate, Kridyate Yatino Harsha, Darshane Pathanani Shat. Pathanani Shat. 6 types of Vaishnava Aparad. First, Hanti, to kill a Vaishnava. This is the most abominable. To go and kill a Vaishnava, this is the most abominable. And fortunately, this is something, even though we may not know the Shastra, I'm pretty sure we will not go and do it. We are at least so much sane that we will not go and do this. But this is Hanti, to kill a Vaishnava. What is the example? We find Indra ends up killing Vritrasur, 6th canto. He was an Asur, but the verses that Vritrasur chants are on the level of the Brajagopis. That is why many times Acharyas, they also say, his name is Vritrasur, but his activities and his mood was like a Mahabhagvat. Vritra Mahabhagvat, because he was Chitraketu in his previous lifetime. So first is to kill. Second, Hanti Nindanti, Ninda Karna, to criticize. This is where we fall prey to criticize. Very easily we end up criticizing, and then we even back it up by saying, oh Prabhuji, I'm just calling a spade a spade. That Mataji did this, so I'm just pointing it out. That Prabhuji did this, so I'm just pointing it out. We criticize and we try to back it up. Ninda. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would give a very beautiful understanding. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would say, imagine you are in a building and the whole building is set on fire. It's on flames. It's burning. What will a sane man do? He will naturally look for the emergency exit. Wherever there is an emergency exit, the sane man will try to exit from there. Similarly, this world is samsara davanala. Samsara davanala lidha loka tronaya karunya ghana ghanatvam praptasya kalyana gunarana bhasya vande guru shri charanaravendam. Samsara davanala. Anala means fire. This samsara is on fire. It's burning. Not burning in the sense of external burning, but burning in ignorance of the Supreme Lord. So now naturally, whenever there is a fire, you look for emergency exits, emergency doors. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would say, the devotees of the Lord are the emergency exits. But when we criticize those devotees, we are jamming the emergency exits. Those devotees who are responsible for helping us exit this material world, when we start criticizing those devotees, we are jamming the doors of Golok Vrindavan on our face. Who is at loss? Is Krishna at loss? No. Are those devotees at loss? No. We are at loss. If we criticize devotees, the only way by which we can go back to Krishna gets jammed permanently. So how can we think of making any advancement? Impossible. So Nindanti, the tongue is meant to glorify Krishna. Srila Radhanath Maharaj very strongly, he says, the tongue is meant for glorifying Krishna. But when the tongue is used for criticizing the devotees, it is time we cut the tongue off. It's a very strong statement, because that is not the purpose why Krishna has given us the tongue. That to criticize Krishna's devotees. You see, in the 9th canto, very beautifully it is explained. Aham bhakta paradina yaswatantra ivodvija sadhubir grasta hridayam bhakter bhakta janapriya. Krishna beautifully explains that I don't know anyone apart from my devotees, and the devotees don't know anyone apart from me. I don't want to know anyone apart from my devotees, and my devotees don't want to know anyone apart from me. It's a love affair. It's a strong bond of love. We are sold out. We are chaste to Sri Krishna and his devotees. And when we criticize those devotees, it's almost like being unchaste. We can never expect Krishna's mercy when we criticize devotees. Never. So second aparad is Nindanti, to criticize. Hanti, to kill. Nindanti, to criticize. Hanti, Nindanti, Vaidveshti, to be envious. I am also cooking. That Mataji is also cooking. But why is it that that Mataji's name is announced in the Sunday feast? My name is not announced in the Sunday feast. Why is it that that Mataji's cake that she made for Radhashtami, her cake was announced? I also made a cake. My cake was not announced. That Prabhuji is leading Kirtan. Well, he is leading Kirtan, but I played Mridanga for him. If I didn't play Mridanga, what Kirtan will he do? We have this. We may not vocalize this, but it's there so much in the head. These things repel us from the mercy of Krishna. It's not about what we do, but it's about the intention. Irrespective of whether our name is announced in the Sunday feast or not, Krishna knows we cooked that cake for him. We baked that cake for him. Irrespective of whether the devotees around know or not, Krishna knows we played Mridanga. That Mridanga is Balaramji. Balaram knows we played the Mridanga. Balaram knows we played the harmonium. So to be envious of another devotee This is very dangerous. One can never make advancement. And we see envy such a thing. We always see enviousness is always there when two devotees are doing the same service. A pujari is never envious of a preacher. A pujari is always envious of a pujari. A mridanga player is never envious of a cook. A mridanga player is envious of another mridanga player. So envy, the symptom of envy is, it is always seen between two people having the same seva. A preacher will maybe never envious of a cook because they're poles apart. But if a preacher sees another preacher, then envy rises in the heart. A cook sees another cook, envy rises. A mridanga player sees another mridanga player, envy rises. So envy is always seen in the same service. But the fundamental thumb rule is still the same. Where there is envy, Krishna's mercy is very far. That was the third. Hanti, Nindanti, Vaidveshti, Vaishnava Nabhinandati. To not offer obeisance seeing a Vaishnava. This is Vaishnava Aparad. This is Vaishnava Aparad. Sometimes we take it very lightly. Arey, he is my friend. Last 20 years, he is my friend. We go to same office, we are buddies, and we go to same congregation also. It is friendship, Prabhuji. Zarurat nahi hai. He doesn't expect it, and I also don't offer it. But we have to understand, we are offering obeisances not just to the person, but primarily to the Paramatma sitting in the heart. Just like we go to a temple and not offer obeisances to Sri Krishna, that is an offense. Similarly, to not offer obeisances to the Paramatma sitting in the heart, this is also aparad. I am not saying this. Sanatan Goswami is saying this. Sanatan Goswami cannot be wrong. He is the Guru Maharaj of Rupa Goswami. He cannot be wrong. So that was the fourth, to offer Vaishnava obeisances. Hanti Nindanti Vaidveshti Vaishnava Nabhinandati Kridyate, to be angry at a Vaishnava. And sixth, Yati no Harsha, to not be happy seeing a Vaishnava. Sunday feast, I am walking this side, from that side another Prabhuji is coming. Arey ye Prabhuji bahut baat karte hai Prabhuji. If I start speaking to him now, kal Monday hai, office hai, bahut kaam hai ghar jaake, if I start speaking to him, the whole night will go by. Better I look somewhere else and I walk. We sometimes do this, to not have a conversation. To not be happy seeing a Vaishnava, this is not a devotional sign. These are 6 types of aparad. But the icing on this, the most lethal and the most dangerous is Guru aparad. Offending one's spiritual master. And now here we find this devotee, it was not intentional, but it just happened. And now his Guru Maharaj left that place and he started asking the sadhus around, what should I do? What should I do? What's the prayaschitta? What's the repentance? And now this repentance was very horrific, very graphic and very horrific. The prayaschitta that was told to this devotee was, go and collect a copper plate. This is a real story. This is a real story. Go and collect a copper plate and have burning charcoal under the copper plate. So much so that when the copper plate is burning like fire, you have to now offer obeisances on that burning copper plate. And this is your prayaschitta. It all started with obeisances. He offered obeisances and then he wiped it off. And now the prayaschitta for him was to offer obeisances on a hot copper plate where it's burning from down. And this devotee, just imagine if you are there in that situation, if we are there in that situation, the moment we hear, we'll say, "Arey Prabhu ji, kuch aur bata dijiye. Ye nahi hoga. Ye humse na ho paega. We cannot do this. You ask us to do something else. You ask us to chant more, hear more. Probably we will do that, but ye na ho paega, Prabhu ji. We cannot do this." Very graphic and very horrific. But this devotee started jumping in joy. He was happy that at least there is some prayaschitta. At least there is something I can do. Looking at the positive in everything. And now the day was decided, the scene was set, and burning hot copper plate. It was burning like anything. On a summer afternoon, with sun right above his head, he was now offering obeisances. 1, 2, 3. And as he was getting up and offering obeisances, his heart was bleeding. More than his heart, the heart of the devotees around. Seeing the scene, their heart was bleeding. Isn't there some other alternative? Can he not do something else? Is he forced to do this? But this devotee was still doing it, because without clearing off the Guru Aparad, he knew that there is no way he can get Krishna. But as he was offering obeisances, when he reached about 36 Dandavat Pranams, even the Lord could not hold himself. Even the Supreme Lord could not hold himself, because the severity of the situation was rising so much that the Lord could not hold. And the Supreme Lord as Jagannath left Nilachal Dham. Jagannath Prabhu left Nilachal Dham and he came to that place where this devotee was offering Dandavat Pranam in a form so beautiful that even Brahmaji cannot think of creating. He came in a form that was so beautiful. Young, small Brahmin boy, just like Vamandev appeared. Very effulgent, very tejasvi. And he came there, and with one hand, he picked up this devotee and embraced him. And now the question arises, well, if the Supreme Lord already knew this, why didn't he come earlier? And why did he make this devotee go through all this? Our Acharya is very beautifully explained that even though he was offering obeisances, for the people outside, it was very difficult to see. But just like we find a cat, when it holds the mice in its mouth, it is death for the mice. But when it holds the kitten in its mouth, it is Vaikunta, it is Swargam. It is the same mouth. It is the same jaws, but for the mice, it is death. For the kitten, it is pleasure. Similarly, what apparently looked as tapasya and torture for others, it was ice cool for these devotees. The Supreme Lord made sure that even though he was offering obeisances, that nothing happened to his body. And with one hand, he picked him up and embraced him. And this Supreme Lord who had come, as we know, was none other than Jagannath. But the question arises, who is this devotee? Who is this devotee we are talking about? This devotee was none other than King Kulashekara, the author of Mukunda Stotra. So we are building up the whole story only to understand who the author is. Last 45 minutes, we are just explaining about the author. The class has not even started till now. we chanted the words, but the class has not started, because we see till the time we don't know who the author is, we may not appreciate the work. When we know the greatness of Prabhupada, we appreciate Prabhupada's books. When we know how many heart attacks he went through, how he came on a Jaladuta, how he came on a cargo ship, we appreciate his books. When we know the glories of Srila Rupa Goswami, we glorify and appreciate his books. Similarly, seldom do we speak about King Kulashekara. So we can imagine the personality who goes through so much austerities just to make sure his Guru Aparad gets washed away. What level of devotion he would have had in his heart. And now he decides to compose this Mukunda Mala Stotra. And this is the reason we find, if we see in the verse, he starts by saying, Mukunda Murdna Pranipatyayache. He says, my dear Lord, I am offering my head. I am offering obeisances to you. Because he has a history of offering obeisances. He has gone through a strong history of offering obeisances that is so much instilled in his heart that in the first 3 verses itself, he's saying, my dear Lord, I am offering my obeisances to you. So the author is a very, very, very glorious personality. Very glorious personality. In fact, we say that King Kulashekara is one of the Alvars of South India. Just like in Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have Goswamis. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta, Das Raghunath Prabhu ki Jai. We have the 6 Goswamis. Similarly, in the south, we have the Alvars. Exactly like the Goswamis, as exalted and as glorious as the Goswamis. All in all, there were 12 Alvars. And these Alvars are not normal personalities. They are the manifestation of the Supreme Lord's paraphernalia. When the Supreme Lord's paraphernalia decides to take a form in this world, they are the 12 Alvars. And one such Alvar is Kulashekara Alvar. He's called King Kulashekara because he was a king. But at the same time, he was a very exalted devotee, so much so that his name is there in one of the 12 Alvar as King Kulashekara or Kulashekara Alvar. But the interesting point, dear devotees, is who is Kulashekara Alvar? Kulashekara Alvar is none other than Krishna's Kaustuba Mani. Krishna's Kaustuba Mani decides to come down to this world as King Kulashekara. Not a normal personality. Very special. When the Kaustuba Mani that Krishna always wears and flaunts, when that Kaustuba Mani decides to come down, it is King Kulashekara. And now we can imagine that King Kulashekara, who is Krishna's Kaustuba Mani, who goes through so much austerity to offer obeisances, he is spending time to write these 52 verses called as the Mukunda Mala Stotra. How glorious! How glorious! Till the time we don't know the author, we will not appreciate his work. We find that Vishnu always wears the Kaustuba Mani. And Sripad Sanatan Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur very beautifully, very interestingly, they say, when the Kaliya pastime was going on, and after Krishna did the dance of divinity, Krishna is an A-grade dancer. Krishna will not dance when the auditorium is empty. Krishna waits. When the whole auditorium is full, then he will dance. Bade admi hai, bade saab hai. He will not dance just like that. Normal dance, you see people in this world also, when they dance or when they sing, only if they're very exalted, they will sing for the Lord. But most people will say, Arey Prabhu ji koi aaye nahi hai. Sab aane do fir hum chalu karenge. Then we will start. You need some audience, some encouragement. Krishna is an A-grade dancer. So till the time the Brajavasis did not come to the shore, to the bank of Jamuna, Krishna was there underneath Yamuna. Almost telling Kaliya, you do whatever you want. You want to bite me, you want to hiss, do whatever you want. But when Balaram brought all the Brajavasis to the shore of Yamuna, to the bank of Yamuna, now Krishna understood. The stage is set, the audience are set, lights, camera, action. Now Krishna comes on the hoods of Kaliya and starts dancing. He could have done this even before. But 6 hours, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, 6 hours Krishna was there inside, waiting for audience to come. Krishna is also a demanding dancer. He will not dance just like that. He wants nice stage, nice audience, lights, camera, action, everything. And then he starts the dance of divinity and starts jumping and dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. And as he is dancing, the Nagapatnis look at this sight and they start crying to Krishna. Kasyanubhavosya nadeva vidmahe tavangri reno sparashadikara. They say, my dear Lord, Kasyanubhavosya nadeva vidmahe. My dear Lord, our husband is so foolish. To all the Matajis, please don't take inspiration. Nagapatnis told that to their husband, please don't take inspiration. This is not a Shastric point. Let it not come as a boomerang back to me saying that Arjun Sakha Prabhu said that in the Shastra it is okay that Matajis can call the husband as foolish. That is not what I am saying. I don't want any Grahastha dispute. May our Grahastha life be wherever it is. But here we find that Nagapatni is there saying, my dear Lord, he is so foolish. He is spitting venom and he was biting and he had coiled you. Kasyanubhavosya nadeva vidmahe tavangri reno sparashadikara. But how is it that someone who is so abominable, you are giving your lotus feet dust to him? We are again circling back at lotus feet dust. Whether it is Kulashekar Alvar of the dust of the forehead or Kaliya getting the lotus feet dust. He is so foolish, our husband. How is it that he is getting it? So Kaliya had no quality. But because he was associated with the Nagapatnis who were pure Vaishnavas, Kaliya got his mercy. What is the lesson, dear devotees? We may or may not be qualified to get Krishna. But if we are in association of those who are very advanced, naturally we become the recipients of Krishna's mercy. All that we have to do is be around devotees who are very pure, and naturally we will find we have become the recipients of Krishna's mercy. Kali had no qualification. But there is something interesting in this pastime that our acharyas comment, which is very less heard. When Krishna was dancing on the hoods and giving an autograph, almost like on all the hoods, Krishna was dancing and giving his autograph. Krishna is a big time celebrity. You see, celebrities, when they're out, people mob them and ask for autographs. People ask for autographs, and then the celebrities, sometimes they will give, sometimes they will not give. They also have their tantrums. Here, Kaliya is not even asking for autograph, and Krishna is voluntarily coming and giving his autograph. Whether you want or not, I will give you my autograph. Krishna autographs on all the hoods of Kaliya. And the Nagapatnis are so elated and so overjoyed, and they're enamored by the beauty of Krishna, that as a reciprocation, all the jewels that the Nagapatnis had, they are not normal snakes, they are special snakes. All the jewels that they had, they started offering to Krishna. My dear Lord, this is our reciprocation. We don't have anything else. But because you have showered your mercy on our family, Sa Parivar, Sa Kutumb, you have showered your mercy. Let this be our reciprocation. And as they were offering jewels, our acharyas comment that Yogamaya, Purnamasi Devi, in that closet of the Nagapatnis had also kept Kaustubha Mani, which the Nagapatnis were not aware. So they were offering one jewel after another, one jewel after another. And while doing so, they also garlanded Krishna with the Kaustubha Mani. And when Krishna comes out from the Kaliya pastime, Krishna comes out with his trophy. You do a good act, you get a trophy. Krishna came out with his trophy, and that trophy was Kaustubha Mani. Question arises, why did Krishna do all this, and why did Purnamasi do all these things? Well, the answer is, if Krishna would have appeared with a Kaustubha Mani, Yashoda Maya would have understood, hey, wait a minute, he is having Kaustubha Mani, he is Vishnu. Then the Vatsalya Ras for which Krishna is coming down to taste would have been smashed. But now, even if Maya Yashoda asks, Krishna can say, Maya, it is not mine. Nagapatnis gave me. It is their thing and they gave me. So from this day onwards, Krishna starts floating and wearing his Kaustubha Mani in the land of Vrindavan. So that Kaustubha Mani is coming down as King Kulashekara to write this Mukunda Mala Stotra. Very special book, very special personality and a very special book. And we find that, interestingly, King Kulashekara, before he became a devotee of Krishna or Vishnu, he was a big time devotee of Sri Ram. Very devout follower of Sri Ram, Prabhu Sri Ram. And Sri Ram is also very beautiful, very charismatic. You see, most people in India, they find it difficult to accept Krishna as God. But Sri Ram, naturally they will accept as God. Ekapatni Vrata, very obedient to his father, very obedient to his brother. Krishna, he speaks something, he does something else, he looks crooked, he stands crooked, he speaks crooked. भगवान बाकी भी यही है, बहुत टेढ़े हैं, दिखते टेढ़े हैं, बोलते टेढ़े हैं, खड़े रहते टेढ़े हैं. He gives a promise that he will not pick up any astra shastra, and in the battlefield he picks up a wheel and starts running. So Krishna is very difficult to understand, very difficult personality. But Sri Ram, Maryada Purushottam, Ekapatni Vrata, very relatable. One time one disciple came to Prabhupada and asked Prabhupada that, my dear Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, we are followers of Krishna. Gaudiya Sampradaya, which means we are followers of Radha Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why is it that in your temples you are installing Sri Ram? Because you see, one of the famous temples in our movement is the Juhu temple, which Prabhupada called as office. And there you find your Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. In fact, even in New Jersey, in the Tobacco temple, you have Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. So this question was asked to Prabhupada that why Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman if we are followers of Radha Krishna? And Prabhupada gave the same reply. Prabhupada said that people in Kali, especially India, are such, they will not believe Krishna is God. But Ram, naturally they will believe that he is God. So Prabhupada said, it is a strategic way to bring people to our ISKCON temple. If we have Ram's deity, then naturally they will come to our ISKCON temple. And once they come to ISKCON temple, if they see Radha Rasbihari, Radha Shyam Sundar, now they cannot go back. They will be so much enamored by the beauty. Yad gatva na nivartante. Once they come to ISKCON temple, you cannot go back. And it is reality. You may or may not be attracted by deities. You may or may not be attracted by the devotees. You may or may not be attracted by the kirtan. There is one thing, 1000% you are going to be attracted, and that is prasadam. प्रसादम से आज तक ऐसा कोई नहीं है, कोई व्यक्ति नहीं है जो बच पाया है. Whichever ISKCON temple you go to, Sunday feast, Saturday feast, no one can escape the power of prasadam. I know it's a wrong day to talk, it's an Ekadashi day, please forgive me, but the discussion is such. Prasadam is very powerful. Ekadashi prasadam is also powerful, but generally we see the normal day prasadam of the paneer and chole and things like that. I'm pretty sure devotees are thinking that, Prabhuji, we had almost forgotten. Why are you reminding us? Especially here in the West Coast, it's only 6:30. At least in the East Coast, the day is almost done. But anyway, we see this point that Prabhupada was making, that Ram in our temples is a strategic way to get people to our ISKCON temples. And once they come, they will get attracted to Sri Krishna. So Kulashekara Alvar also, maybe it's another 5-7 minutes. Kulashekara Alvar also was a big time devotee of Sri Ram. Very fond devotee of Sri Ram. And every day in his assembly, his Guru Maharaj would read Valmiki Ramayana and he would keep hearing. And one time it was so, the section was such that Sri Ram was banished to the forest. He was banished to the forest. And now King Kulashekara was so much into the pastime, so much absorbed, with his eyes closed, he was hearing. And when he heard that, oh, my worshipable Lord has been banished to the forest for 14 years in exile, he stood up and called all his army, his elephants, his horses, his ministers, the chariots. He called all of them. Why? He made an announcement. My worshipable Lord Sri Ram is going to the forest with only Sumantra. There is no one else. He is going all alone. Let us go and accompany him. The ministers were scratching their head. Seems like something has gotten into the head of our Swami, the head of our king. I think he needs to come back to his senses. He doesn't understand that this is a story that happened in the past. But the devotion of Kulashekara Alvar, King Kulashekara, was so much that he was so engrossed into the pastime, he was actually witnessing Sri Ram being banished. So from that day onwards, his Guru Maharaj understood, never again will I read any section where Sri Ram is unhappy. So from that day onwards, he would always read sections where Sri Ram is happy, joyful. And even sections where apparently Sri Ram was unhappy, he would just quickly scratch the surface and he would finish it off, because he knew once bitten, twice shy. Last time, he just got up from his Vyasasana. This time, he will actually take his army and go there. So he didn't want a part 2. But he was a big time follower of Sri Ram. Interestingly, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was small, was a big time follower of Prabhu Sri Ram. As Kedarnath Datta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was small, he was Kedarnath Datta. He was also a big time follower of Sri Ram. And Sri Ram indeed is very beautiful, very attractive. Shri Rama Rama Raghunandana Rama Rama, Shri Rama Rama Ranakarkasha Rama Rama, Shri Rama Rama Bharatagraja Rama Rama, Shri Rama Rama Sharanam Bhava Rama Rama, Lokabhiramam Ranarangadhiram, Rajivanetram Raghuvamshanatham, Karunyarupam Karunakarantam, Shri Ramachandram Sharanam Prapadye, Shri Ramachandram Sharanam Prapadye, Shri Ramachandram Sharanam Prapadye. Shri Rama Rama Raghunandana Rama Rama, he is Raghunandan. Shri Rama Rama Bharatagraja Rama Rama, he is the brother of Bharat. Shri Rama Rama Ranakarkasha Rama Rama. How is the Supreme Lord in the battlefield? Ranakarkasha, he is very valiant, very powerful. And we see this while he was in exile. Shri Rama was so powerful that single-handedly he made a mountain of 14,000 skeletons. 14,000 demons, single-handedly killed them and made a mountain out of that. That is the power of Sri Ram. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur and King Kulashekara were also very fanatic and very devoted to the lotus feet of Sri Ram. And in the pastime of Ram also we find in this matter of obeisances, because the term uses Mukunda Murdana to offer obeisances. In the pastime of Sri Ram also we find my worshipful spiritual master, when he was speaking on the section of Ramayana, he made a very interesting point. He was mentioning that Ravan had to do so much to get Lanka. To rule Lanka, he had to go through so much austerities. Kitne papad belne pade in order to become the king of Lanka. So much difficulties. And finally what happened? He was vanquished. He was killed at the hands of Sri Ram. So he did so much, but still he could not become the king. And that same Supreme Lord who ripped apart Ravan, he is so merciful that Vibhishan offered just one obeisance to the lotus feet of Sri Ram, and Sri Ram gave the whole Lanka to him. That Ravana who did so much to become the king of Lanka, Vibhishan did not do anything. Just one obeisance. Mukunda Murdana. One obeisance, and Sri Ram gave everything. Sakradeva prapannoyam tavasmi iti sayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etadvratam mama. That Vibhishan who offers one obeisance is Krishna gives everything. Sri Ram gives everything in the form of Lanka. So one obeisance or multiple obeisances is so powerful that the Supreme Lord can give a whole kingdom to that personality. Will the Supreme Lord not open the gates of spiritual world to the person who offers obeisances? Of course he will. Of course he will. That is why our acharyas time and again make this point that the head should always bow down whenever we see a superior. The head should always bow down when we see the Supreme Lord. Vani gunanukathane shravanau kathayam hastau chakarma sumanastava padayorna smritya shirastava nivasa jagat praname drishti satam darshanestu bhavattanunam. The shirasa, the head, is meant only for bowing down. Very interesting. One time, I'll end with this. One time, one person came to Prabhupada and he challenged Prabhupada, Swamiji, I don't bow down in front of anyone. Now, this is a wrong thing to do in front of a wrong person. To challenge Prabhupada on a Shastric point, it is like putting your hand inside the mouth of a lion. You never do this. He came to Prabhupada and said, Swamiji, I don't bow down in front of anyone. Prabhupada said, Acha, you don't bow down in front of anyone? He said, yes, I don't bow down in front of anyone. Prabhupada said, when you go for a haircut, how do you cut your hair? He said, like this. Prabhupada said, if you can bow your head in front of a barber, why not bow your head in front of Shyam Sundar? If you can bow your head in front of a barber when he cuts your hair, why not in front of Krishna? That person never came back. But this is reality. You see, when we go out for haircut, you bend your head. You bow your head. Interesting how Prabhupada could come with these examples. Prabhupada said, if you can bow down in front of the barber, why not in front of Krishna? So just by offering obeisances, all auspiciousness is guaranteed. And we see the same point is made by Kulashekara Alvar. In fact, all this while we just discussed one word, that is Murdana, Mukunda Murdana. We have not even finished one line. There are 4 lines to this verse. So I don't know how in 2 classes we are going to finish the whole verse. But in the 1 hour, we have just finished one word, that is Mukunda Murdana, to offer obeisances. Having said this, I very humbly stop here. I don't stop here, but I just pause here because next week we are again going to continue on the same verse, on the same section of King Kulashekara, elaborating on this verse of Mukunda Murdana Pranipatte. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Kulashekara Alvar ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samasta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was really wonderful. I'll just take a minute before we go for the questions. First of all, my request to devotees, please gather your questions, post it on the chat, and I'll just take a minute to just explain the detail the activities we do at ISKCON Bergen. And I'll just share my screen. One sec. So at ISKCON Bergen, we do this Wednesday Sangha every week on the same Zoom. And as Prabhuji said, this Mukunda Stotra will be a series, and the same session will continue next week. This Sunday program is we are having His Grace Gauranga Prabhu in-person class. So those who are around in New Jersey, more than welcome, and please join us. We have started back our Sunday school. Last week was our first class, and if you have interest in enrolling your kids, that'll be a wonderful beginning. Enrollments are still open. We do the Bhakti Bridge programs on every Fridays. You can join one of the programs by clicking on this link, give your information, and one of us will contact you and connect with the proper Bhakti Bridge in your region. We also do working days, 12 to 12:15 Bhagavad Gita reading. You can join on the same Zoom. And most important activity we do is every day morning chanting 6 to 8 on the same Zoom. Please join and give us the association. Thank you. So we'll move to back to the questions now. And for that, it's a Indra Ekadasi today. So I would also like to remind that today we'll be reading the story as well towards the end of the program, the Ekadasi story as well. And some of you are aware, ISKCON Bergen is also organizing the Kirtan program on October 29 in person in New Jersey. There'll be the Kartik celebration in the form of Kirtan. We'll be having a nice Sangha. So if you are around in New Jersey on October 29, please join us in the Kirtan. Okay. All right. So go back to questions. And one more interesting, I forgot. I'd like to also let everybody know that one of our congregation member, Shraddha Mataji, she is blessed to be accepted in the shelter of His Grace Vaishishika Prabhu, and actually she is initiated with the name as Sakri Kaur Dasi. So we'd like to welcome Mataji and would like to congratulate the family of Prabhupada. I think she's online and on the camera also. Yes, my small screen cannot capture her. She's there. I see that. So, so thank you, Mataji, for one very interesting thing is the Mataji is she has been purely remote and has been participating in all the sanghas. And in my memory, she took the best advantage of COVID lockdown. And so, how much Prabhupada books have mercy? She is the example of that. She came from nowhere to initiation in this COVID time. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. And question answers. Let's go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam.
And,
Jai Shri Prabhupada. So very wonderful class, Prabhu. I mean, it was very well explained. So my question is, Krishna, as you explained, like Krishna was dancing on the hood of Kalyana, right? So it very well, if the Lord is dancing on Kalyana, so definitely there might be some pious activities he must have done in the previous life, because of which Krishna danced on his hood. And at the same time, because he was a snake in the next life, definitely he must have got some curse from someone who because of which he became the snake. So my question is, like, who was Kalyanag in his previous life, and like who cursed him, and how he became a snake?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Before I answer, my heartfelt congratulations to Sakha Mataji on your initiation and joining the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya under the guidance and auspices of His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. The name is very interesting. Sakha Kaur is a place in Vrindavan. Of course, I mean, I'm pretty sure Maharaj gives the rich and meaning of that, but I'm tempted to speak something saying that name, because when I joined the call, I saw the name and it just reminded me of Sakha Kaur. Sakha Kaur is a very beautiful place in Vrindavan, and where, for those devotees who have been there, they will find that many of Krishna's even tax collection pastimes took place there, and so much so that Krishna would break, the Braja Gopis would break the pots of Krishna, and likewise Krishna would also break the pots, because Sakha Kaur is the place that goes to Chiksoli Gaon, where Chitra Sakhi stays. If you go with Dinabandhu Prabhu, you will find you cross Sakha Kaur and then you go to Chiksoli Gaon, where Chitra Sakhi stays. So there we find, because the butter pots were broken, even till this date, you will find Sakha Kaur has a very, very interesting scenic beauty, in the sense that the stones have two colors. The place where the butter fell down, even now they have a whitish complexion. The stones have a whitish complexion, and it's very evident. And the place where it did not fall, it's still dark in complexion. Almost to say that the white is Srimati Radharani and the dark is Shyam. So there is Radhe Shyam even in the stone, and that is Sakha Kaur. Very beautiful place. In fact, I am more tempted to speak on Sakha Kaur than the question, but I think I will go back to that question. But just to wrap up, Sakha Kaur is such an interesting place that only one person can cross Sakha Kaur at a time, one at a time. No two people can walk simultaneously. It's next to impossible. The place is such, you always go in a line and one behind the other. Two people can never go. How much ever thin you are, how much ever fat you are. Our bodily things don't work in Vrindavan. It is a transcendental place. How much ever thin you are and how much ever fat you are, only one can go. So for those devotees who have been there, it's a good meditation. And for those who have not, I hope and pray that this coming Kartik, we can go to Braj and go to this very holy, exalted place called as Sakha Kaur. Shri Sakha Kaur ki Jai.
Sure.
Back to your question, Prabhuji. I'm sorry, I was just my mind just went towards Shankari Core. Kalia definitely has a history of who he was in his previous lifetime, and there is a reason why he became the snake. I would not want to answer it right now because I did a whole class for ISKCON of Birmingham on this point of who he was in his past life, what the curse was, and how he came back. So my humble request would be, it's there on my channel, ISKCON, on my channel, Arjun Sakha official, and there you can, if you just scroll, you'll find for ISKCON Birmingham, I served that class. Who was Kali in his previous lifetime, how he got cursed, how he came here, and why Krishna danced on his foot. I explain that one. So
Okay,
that's a class in itself, and I'm pretty sure it's 9:50 Eastern. If I start speaking, it's going to be an Ekadashi Jagran. So
okay,
I would not.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhi. There is another question from one of the devotees. He's asking, King Kulashekara, when did he develop the love for Krishna and became such an instanced devotee of Krishna?
So the exact time frame is not there. Details about King Kulashekara's life, just like we have other books where we find the details of the personality's life, King Kulashekara's details are not much there. So they are just there in some bits and pieces. When the transformation took place is something that only King Kulashekara can answer or his Gurudev can answer. But while at the same time, it is believed that at the start, he was not very much devotional. He was materially perfect, but spiritually blind. Then he started becoming the devotee of Sri Ram. And then Sri Ram takes him to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. And then he develops a desire of living in the holy land of Sri Rangam, because Sri Ranganath Swami is there. The Supreme Lord of Sri Vishnu, Ranganatha Swami. So eventually the transition takes place, but what is the time frame and what were the exact circumstances in his life are something that only King Kulashekara can answer. Right.
Thank you, Prabhu. There is, okay, anybody else has question on the...
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam, Jai Shila Prabhupada. Can I ask a question, Prabhuji?
Sure, Mataji.
So, Prabhuji, how we were talking about offenses. So, sometimes we see that we have offended a devotee, but the devotee, from his kindness, they will not tell us. Like, supposing if I offended a devotee, they will not tell, oh, you offended me. So, how would we know? कि हमको पता कैसे चलेगा कि we have offended Vaishnava, and vice versa. Like if we think that somebody has offended us, should we go approach and tell that person that I'm offended? Please, Prabhuji, if you can guide.
Very tricky and a very practical question. But Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would make this point that whenever we have made an offense and we know it's an offense, we should immediately go and ask the devotee for forgiveness. Doesn't mean we go in public and ask. It can be one-on-one private. And if the devotee says, if the devotee forgives, that's great. The offense is nullified. And even if the devotee says that, well, no, Prabhuji, I do not take it as an offense, we still have done our duty of sharing it with that devotee. But we also make sure that if that devotee can forgive us, thoda piche pade, and we make sure that that devotee forgives us. Because if we have done an aparad, till the time that devotee forgives us, that aparad is not taken away. So even if the devotee out of his humility may say that I don't take it as an offense, we just try to go a little ahead and then ask for forgiveness. A second instance here is we have committed an offense, but we don't know if it's an offense. Accidental. Like the way King Kulashekara did. It was accidental. He didn't mean it. We see even in the life of Srila Rupa Goswami, when Srila Rupa Goswami was there in Vrindavan, and Srila Rupa Goswami was meditating, and in his pastimes he saw beautiful Radha Krishna pastimes. And at that time, one devotee came to meet Rupa Goswami and he was apparently he was lame. So Rupa Goswami's eyes were closed and he started smiling. So this devotee thought that, oh, he's smiling at me. I am lame, that's why he's smiling at me. He took it as an offense and he went to Sanatan Goswami to complain. Your disciple is laughing at me, seeing my condition. While in reality, Srila Rupa Goswami was actually seeing a very beautiful pastime of Radharani and Krishna, and seeing the humor in that pastime, he was smiling. But still, when all this happened, the Bhakti Ratnakar describes that the meditation of Srila Rupa Goswami broke because that devotee took it as an offense. And Srila Rupa Goswami understood that kuch to galti hua hai, some mistake has happened. So he goes to his Guru Maharaj, Sanatan Goswami. And when he goes to Sanatan Goswami, he sees that this devotee was also there. So Srila Rupa Goswami asks for forgiveness. Even though he clarifies, he asks for forgiveness. And then he comes back and his meditation is restored. So Srila Rupa Goswami teaches by example, even if you're Rupa Goswami, you still ask for forgiveness. Without asking for forgiveness from a devotee whom we have offended, we don't make advancement. But if it's an accident, like in the case of Srila Rupa Goswami, we don't mean it. Galti se ho gaya. We can ask forgiveness. But if we have not even realized it, that's another tragic situation. We have criticized and we have not even realized it. Then what do we do? That is why our acharyas always say, and Srila Prabhupada always says that before going to bed, we pray to the Supreme Lord that, my dear Lord, throughout the day, I would have committed many offenses. Some I know and some I have no idea about. I would have said something to a devotee and I would have felt it is normal, but he would have taken it as an offense. My dear Lord, I don't know where your devotees are and I don't know what mistakes I have done. You know what the reality is and you know my heart. My dear Lord, I am asking for forgiveness. Kshamasva Madhusudana. My dear Lord, O Madhusudana, Kshamasva. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. And wherever Krishna is there, that's the best we can do because we don't know to which devotee we have committed an offense. But we can at least every day before going to bed, we can do this. My dear Lord, whatever mistakes I have done, please forgive me. I don't intend to, I don't mean to, but unfortunately I am a conditioned jiva and I am making mistakes. In spite of hearing so much Harikatha, I am making mistakes. Bhagavan bachalo, maaf kar do. Please forgive me. This is the best we can do every day before going to bed. If we know whom we have criticized, we straight away ask for forgiveness. But if we don't know who it is, then we just pray to Krishna. And then Krishna will take care. Does that help, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much for the wonderful nectarian class also. And the answer was very nice. Thank you. Helpful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, do you have some time? There are 2-3 questions online as well.
I have all my time. It is only 6:55 Pacific, but I think it's pretty late in the East Coast. So I'm not sure of.
Oh, yeah. I just realized that you're in West Coast.
Maybe you can take one question and then we can wrap it up.
Okay, there are a couple of questions. They are around the Kastuva money. There's one devotee asking, how come Kastuva money, these Nagpatnis, how did they acquire Kastuva money? And on the same line, there is another Kastuva money question. Says, we generally don't see Kastuva money on the chest of Krishna in pictures. So is it like it appears sometimes on his chest, or it is necklace? It's not clear. It's just some.
So as far as the first point is concerned, how did the Nagapatnis get it? We did mention that Purnamasi Devi or Yogamaya had kept it in the treasure chest of the Nagapatnis. The Nagapatnis were not even aware. They just thought they are normal necklace. But Purnamasi Devi, who is the Braj Commission, she is the director of Braj Planning Commission. She plans all of Radha Krishna pastimes along with Vrinda Devi. Braj Planning Commission. She is the director. So she kept the Kaustuba money in the treasure chest of the Nagapatnis. The Nagapatnis had no idea. And even after they offered it, they had no idea. That is point number one. As far as not seeing on the chest of Krishna, well, because the Kaustuba money, so there are two things. One is Kaustuba money and second is Srivatsa. Krishna, you see the Supreme Lord has a as Vishnu also, he has a golden strand of hair, which denotes Lakshmi. But this is Kaustava Mani is opulence and it is Aishwarya. And in Vrindavan, there is Aishwarya, but it's not the Aishwarya of the Vaikunta. In Vaikunta, Aishwarya is in the form of jewels, diamonds, necklaces, etc. In Vrindavan, there is Aishwarya in the form of flowers, Karnikara flowers, lotus flowers, Vaijayanti Mala. There is Aishwarya, but there's a different level of Aishwarya. So even though Krishna got the Kaustubha Mani, Krishna really never wore as much as he wears as Vishnu. Because in Braj, Krishna is more happy to wear a Vaijayanti Mala than a Kaustubha Mani. Because the Vaijayanti Mala, Vaijayanti, Jayanti means victory, and Vaijayanti, Vishesha Rupena Jayati. It's a special form of victory. Victory over what? Not victory over demons. Krishna is not wearing a garland to show to this world, hey, I killed Putana, Shakatasur, Agasur. That is not why he is wearing Vaijayanti Mala. Vaijayanti is the mala given by the Brajavasis. And Krishna is wearing and flaunting that to show to the world, I have now become victorious over the hearts of the Brajavasis. Vaijayanti. I am now victorious over their hearts. Not because he has killed Putana. That even as Vishnu he kills. Not a big deal. But now he is victorious over the hearts of the Brajavasis. So Krishna wears Vaijayanti Mala, Karnikara flower. We see in the Venugit. Karna yoho karnikaram, Vibrat basana kanak kapisham, Vaijayantim cha malam, Randran venu radar sudayan, Purayan gopa brindai, Vrindaranyam swappadaramanam pravishad Gita Kirti. This is Aishwarya in Vrindavan. So even though Krishna got it, Krishna didn't really wear it much. That is why in the temples also we find we don't put Kaustubha Mani, because that is primarily something that Vishnu wears. But Vishnu comes from Krishna. So this pastime of Kali also denotes this point that Krishna is not a normal 7-year-old. He is Vishnu himself. In fact, he is the origin of Vishnu. Vishnu comes from him. Hare Krishna.